You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
You're listening to Straight to the Extra Point, your Niagara source for all news, draft coverage, free agency, weekly game analysis, game day betting picks, and fantasy football updates regarding the National Football League. Here's your hosts, Brandon Caputo and Miklos McMaster.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another installment of our Straight to the Extra Point right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Your September 23rd, 2020 edition, your source of North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here in the good old Niagara region. Find us on social media for updates, giveaways, and sponsored promo codes each month by following the podcast on Twitter at Armchair GM Pod, on Facebook by searching Armchair GM's Network, and on Instagram by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. Listen to us on our main platform, which is Spreaker.com, and the free Spreaker app by searching the Armchair GMs. As well, check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Deezer by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. And lastly, check out our beautiful, user-friendly website by searching armchairgmsports.com for all things regarding our network, including articles, podcast episodes, sponsors, and contributors. Everything's on there for you guys, and wherever it's most convenient for you to listen to us. We're on many different platforms for you. Please give us a like and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? Give us some love over here. As always, I'm one of your hosts of Straight to the Extra Point, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13 with a Canadian Z. And I'm always very pleased to be joined on the NFL portion of the network by my co-host Miklos. You can follow him on Twitter at Miklos_McMaster, former OUA athlete for the Waterloo Warriors. Miklos, I know you're feeling good this week, especially after the big win by your Las Vegas Raiders the other night against the New Orleans Saints.
Coach, I've been ripping Autumn Wind on repeat. The Autumn Wind is a Raider, baby. Let's go.
Unreal win by the Raiders, and on the other end of the spectrum, not going to be talking a lot about my team since they have put me in a very dark place that I never thought I would get to again, thanks to the Atlanta Falcons this week. But we'll get to that when we get there. But regardless, everybody, thanks for coming back. We're here for our Week 2 recap and Week 3 betting picks. It's going to be another good show for you guys here today. And before we get going on the games here, Miklos, I need you to repeat something that you said just before we went on the air here today about the injuries this week.
Yeah, this has been probably the darkest week in the NFL that I can remember with the amount of injuries. And as I mentioned in the pre-show, I will mention it again, the football gods were coming for everybody's ACL out there. It seemed like every team lost 2 or 3, or in the case of San Francisco, all of their star players in 1 week. What a devastating week for the NFL and teams all across the league.
Yeah, I mean, even with the records right now, with these key injuries, this could change the landscape of the NFL this year with all these guys going down. Even like San Francisco, you know, they won this week, but I'm pretty sure that they would have taken a loss over the Jets, like you mentioned also in our pre-show, over what they got this week. Just devastating injuries that, as well for fantasy football, but for the actual teams as well and the landscape of their divisions, it really seems like some teams that we didn't expect to have a chance, might be able to have an opportunity now with some of these big injuries that have taken place for some of these top teams.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to shake things up, especially in the NFC West that was already looking to be, I mean, with the resurgence of Arizona and how good they've looked, it's looking to be the most competitive division in football by a long shot. And San Francisco, behind the 8 ball after losing Game 1 and now having all these injuries, they're going to be really up against it to try and claim a playoff spot in that division.
Yikes. And I had them as my number 1 seed in our playoff prediction, and you had them as your number 2 seed. And segueing into that, we need to update this a little bit for you guys because there was the added third wildcard team for this year. So with that being said, Miklos, let's hear your again. We're going to go off of our preseason rankings here. We know what's happened the last couple of weeks, and obviously I probably wouldn't have picked the Minnesota Vikings anymore to be my winner of the NFC North, but unfortunately I have to stick with that, and we have to go with what we said in the preseason here. So Miklos, go ahead and give your new rankings with the added wild card team.
Yeah, so just repeating, I'll start with the NFC. So I had New Orleans as my number 1, San Fran as my number 2. Oh my God. I did have Green Bay as my number 3, Dallas is 4, and then the 2 wild cards I had originally were Seattle and Tampa Bay, which I'm happy with. But based on the rankings that I had, I did have Minnesota as my last wild card spot, and that is not feeling good whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, the only thing worse than that is having them as your division winner, like me. So the Niners I had at number 1, yikes. The Saints at number 2, which isn't looking great either at the moment. Cowboys at number 3. With that division, like, come on, like, what a joke that has been. The Vikings at number 4, which, yeah, that's not looking good at all. The Seattle Seahawks at number 5 in the wild card spot, which is looking real good right now. They might even win the division at this point. And then number 6 is the Atlanta Falcons at number 6. And, yeah, that's a whole lot of nope on that one. And moving on to my last wildcard team, I'm actually going to put the Green Bay Packers in that spot because I really think that they're due, like you mentioned, you've been on the Aaron Rodgers, redemption tour here this season, and he looks off to a good start with the Packers here. So I have the Packers as my last wildcard spot in the NFC. So it would be Niners, Saints, Cowboys, Vikings, Seahawks, Falcons, and Packers. With that being said, Miklos, what do you got for the AFC playoff picture?
So the AFC, I think my top 3 I still am happy about. I have Kansas City 1, Baltimore 2, and Buffalo 3, although the Patriots have been looking real good, and Cam is looking real nice over there. Indianapolis 4, which is I've been much like you were on the Jags last year. I've been pretty pumped about Indianapolis and Phillip Rivers, and that's looking real rough right now. I had Denver at 5, also not looking good. New England at 6, and then I had, based on my rankings, Pittsburgh as my last wild card spot in the AFC.
Yeah, I was agreeing with you there. I had Pittsburgh and New England kind of like, they're together for the 6th spot, so it's kind of good that we both had them kind of on the bubble there, but with the added team, both of them making it on our list, and we're able to find a spot for them. Basically, I had the same rundown as you at 1 and 2, Chiefs, Ravens. Then I had the Bills swapped from 3 to 4 from your list, so I had the Titans at 3 and the Bills at 4. I had the Colts still making the playoffs, so I'm just as bad as you are with the Colts pick there. I really was expecting more from them in that defense as well. Just not looking that great. I mean, they beat the Vikings this week, but yikes, they aren't looking too good either. So basically Chiefs, Ravens, Titans, Bills, Colts, Steelers, Patriots, and you were almost basically the same, except you had the Broncos in there, which the Broncos have still looked good despite all of their injuries, and we'll get into their game against the Steelers, but even Jeff Driscoll going in there, the Broncos are still look like they can, still contend with all those injuries somehow.
Yeah, I know it's not consolation to our boy Ricky out there and all the other Broncos fans starting off the season with losses like that, but they've been very respectable and I would say moral victories considering the players that they have out. I mean, no Von Miller, no AJ Boye, and now you have your franchise quarterback going down. But the fact that they've been able to put together and really a couple of big plays away from beating the Steelers. They kept that game very respectable, all things considered, with their backup quarterback. I mean, no one expects you to be in a game. You have Jeff Driscoll out there. No offense to Jeff Driscoll, but come on now. But yeah, I think even though they lost their games, they've been looking really good in their first 2 games.
Mm-hmm. And Cortland Sutton also going out with an injury, one of their star wide receivers. So a lot of bad things happening for Denver right now, but looking pretty decent despite that. But with that being said, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break on the show today, and we're going to come back and we're going to discuss our Week 2 games and picks and kind of recap what happened in a crazy Week 2 in the NFL. So stay here, and we'll be right back here on Straight to the Extra Point and right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Pizzeria Italiano, serving traditional-style Italian pizzas made with the freshest, top-quality ingredients. Loaded subs and their famous chicken wings. Winners of the Reader's Choice Diamond Award, 4 years running from Niagara this week for Best Pizza and Wings in Niagara Falls. Home of the best tray and wing combo in town for the price and quality. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., located on the corner of Drummond Road and Dunn Street. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery at 905-374-4400. Make sure to like them on Facebook and view their website for their menu at carmine'spizzeria.ca. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. Way too good. As we all adjust to this new world that we're living in today, masks are now mandatory, and Niagara's own Custom PPE is Canada's leading face mask provider. Visit them online at customppe.ca and choose between several mask options with different colors and sizes. Add your organization, company, or team logo so you make your face masks unique. Available to purchase online 24/7 at customppe.ca and shipped within 1 week. They have the best prices and quickest turnaround in Canada, and no order is too big or too small. Also offering custom floor stickers as well as face and counter shields for your business or workplace. Visit customppe.ca and use the code ARMCHAIR at checkout for 20% off your custom or blank face mask today. Custom PPE, Canada's leading face mask provider. Attention job seekers, if you are currently looking for work in the Niagara region, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road, Niagara Falls, directly across from the Camisos Plaza. Their free services include resume and cover letter writing, community resource and referral information, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, second career information and registration assistance, and all their services are currently provided by appointment only. So give them a call at 905-358-0021 or visit their website at ehc.on.ca, the Niagara Employment Help Center. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our second segment of our Straight to the Extra Point Week 2 recap. Cappy Miklos back with you here. And Miklos, let's go ahead and start off hot here. I mean, Week 2 was very interesting. We had, obviously, I guess some people were excited about the Browns and Bengals and the Thursday Night Football. I was not one of those people that was very excited, but again, AFC North Division matchup there, Bengals and Browns. And before I let you take that off, I want to give a shout-out. And this segment is sponsored by Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, home of the best pizza and wing combos in Niagara Falls. Call today, 905-374-4400 and carmine'spizzeria.ca. This month's promo code is ArmchairBacon for 10% off your entire order when you call for call-ahead pickup or delivery. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, way too good. Miklos, what do you think of the Browns and Bengals on Thursday Night Football this week?
I thought two major takeaways from that game. I thought that it was a good get-right game for the Browns. After they looked just abysmal against Baltimore in Week 1, they just ran all over the Bengals. The Bengals' run defense is non-existent. I'm not sure if Kareem Hunt also had over 100 yards, but both him and Nick Chubb were just running like crazy all over them. And Baker Mayfield looked good in a bounce-back game. But if you're a Bengals fan, even though you guys lost, I would be very happy in that game. There's obvious things that you need to clean up. Like, they need to improve their run defense and their run offense. Joe Mixon was struggling all game. But Joe Burrow looks like he is the guy. He looks like absolutely like a franchise quarterback. He looks very comfortable back there. And he played fantastic for a rookie quarterback, and given the team that he's playing with and the deficiencies they have at O-line, he looked poised back there, making awesome throws and in command. I think the Bengals have a very bright future ahead of them.
They've been really close these last 2 weeks. I know it was a heartbreaking loss against the Chargers last week, but I mean they lost barely in that game by 3 points, and they lose by 5 points to the Browns. Like they're losing games, but they're close. They could easily have been 2-0 to start this season. I don't think any Bengals fan would be too upset with how their team has looked. And if you have a chance to win when you're the team that finished dead last in the entire NFL last year, I think those are positive steps. Although they're 0-2, they've been a respectable 0-2.
Yeah, absolutely. You always talk about being a bad 0-2 or in a good 0-2 or whatever record for a team, like the Jets, for example, bad 0-2. Bengals, very good 0-2. If you're a Bengals fan, this is a bright future, and hey, even if you still are picking in the top 10 in this year's draft, that's just adding more fuel to a young core that's looking really good over there, and the future is definitely bright.
Absolutely. With that being said, let's get into the Sunday games, and first start off here with the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will say, I forgot to mention before we started the segment, on our picks last week, I went 11-5 for the spreads and 7-9 for the over-unders, the over-under for the points. And my co-host here decided to copy me this week. We both went 11-5 in the spreads and 7-9 with the over-under, so not that great with the over-unders, but I must say we're killing it with the spreads for the first 2 weeks here, Miklos.
Yeah, not too bad. And hey, if I had picked with my heart and really had faith in my Raiders, I would have been 12-4.
Absolutely, same with me. I picked the Saints as well, but good on the Raiders. But we'll get into that when we get there. But first game here, Panthers and Buccaneers, in a game that was not looking good for the Buccaneers. Carolina fought back in that game after having no points in the first half, I believe. And Rob Gronkowski continues to heavily disappoint for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just has been non-existent in the passing game. Somebody who's killing me in fantasy football. Luckily, I have 2 tight ends on both my teams, so I've been able to bench him because he has looked absolutely atrocious. But what are you thinking of the Buccaneers? I mean, they're still working out some kinks with all these new guys and the new offense here with Tom Brady. Just what do you think about the 31-27 victory by the Bucs over a division opponent in the Carolina Panthers?
I think this is a good win. I think it was a lot closer than most people were expecting. But that's okay. I thought Carolina was doing really well. They've got a young, talented team, but they're just undermanned. They're not quite there yet. Much like the Bengals, they're still rebuilding. I think Teddy Bridgewater's doing great for them. And Tampa Bay ironing out the kinks still, but a good win against a division opponent. You got to have those, and it doesn't matter how you get there. It just matters that you get that tick in the winners column. And I think it was really good for Tampa Bay and made them feel a lot better about themselves to have Mike Evans bounce back after his week 1 and Tom Brady connecting with him early and often. And I think Gronk is just showing what happens when you don't play in the NFL for a year. I don't think it matters how athletic and talented you are. A year off of football plus no preseason. I think he's someone who would have benefited a lot from having a preseason this year. But he'll be fine. I'm sure they'll just keep working their way on, and the Bucs are just coming into their stride. They're just going to get better and better week to week, I imagine.
I hope not. But with that being said, let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. And the Jags giving the Titans a run for their money here. A 33-30 win for the Titans on a 52-yarder by Stephen Gostkowski after his horrible week. The previous week in week 1, missing 3 field goals and an extra point. Comes back with the game winner, and then comes back with a game winner in this game as well, which he missed an extra point in this game also. So seems like Gostkowski just seems to be the guy to bounce back within the same game, and getting the game winners has been keeping him a roster spot and keeping him around. But if you're the Titans, you can't be too pleased with only coming away with a 3-point victory last second against a really, rebuilding Jacksonville Jaguars team here.
I think if you're Tennessee, you're 2-0 though. It's looked bad. There's definitely things to clean up. Their kicking game has looked real shaky. But despite all that, you're still 2-0 against a division rival who's looked a lot better than anyone expected, and a Denver team that's definitely no pushover. And I think Tennessee's happy with that. They're on the right side of both of these tough games, and they just got to continue to clean things up and show that they are the team that people expect them to be. And I think Ryan Tannehill showed a lot to me in this game. He played awesome. they asked a lot of him, and Jacksonville basically said, hey, Derrick Henry's not going to beat us in that game, and he stepped up to the plate, and I think it was 4 touchdowns that he threw for, which is exactly what they need if they want to go far in the playoffs again this year. And if you're Jacksonville, talk about addition by subtraction. They get rid of all these guys who are the names that people recognize on this team, and they are looking like they're not even going to be sniffing a draft pick that's within striking distance of getting Trevor Lawrence in this upcoming draft. They're looking really awesome, and I think they're a dark horse candidate to steal a wild card spot this year.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that with the Jags? But I'm picked the Jags last year. That was a nightmare, so I'm not getting too hype on them again. But, respectable for the Jags so far. I mean, they come out with the win against the Colts last week and almost pull out a victory against a heavily favored Tennessee Titans team. So if you're the Jags, you got to be pretty ecstatic with how your season's gone so far. But moving on to the next game here, the New York Giants traveling to Chicago to play the Bears. And the Giants were really in this game until the end, Miklos. I mean, considering how bad they had looked at times, I mean, they had a chance to win this game in their final drive here. I mean, they had the ball inside the red zone on the Bears with a chance to win this game, as the clock was expiring, but just couldn't get the ball into the end zone.
Yeah, and considering Saquon Barkley went down early in the game, and unfortunately for the Giants, done for the year with a torn ACL, one of the few major star players going down on this week, is a devastating loss. I think the Giants played really well. I think they're in a similar vein as the Bengals in Carolina. I think they're happy with Daniel Jones, and they just have a lot of injury problems, and they need to get Daniel Jones some weapons, because Evan Ingram didn't really do anything in that game, and he's supposed to be their star tight end. And at wide receiver, they are just barren. They have an old Golden Tate, and then Darius Slayton is okay. Sterling Shepard's same, but he's always injured. I mean, they got to find some weapons for Daniel Jones to throw to, and especially now with Saquon going down, I think their offense is going to be in trouble. But I think they have a lot of good pieces, but they're probably going to be picking early in this year's draft. And then if you're the Bears, I mean, credit to Matt Nagy. He's making some things happen out there with this Bears team that a lot of people weren't expecting to happen, and getting Mitchell Trubisky on the right track, and they've got 2 wins now. I mean, say what you will about how those wins happened. They're 2-0, and that being 2-0 is not an easy thing to do in this NFL, as we've seen. So if they keep pulling out these grimy wins, they might be able to make something happen later in the year.
I mean, they got to contend with the Packers, and if the Vikings ever get it turned around, so who knows with that. But I will say about the Giants, shout out to my buddy Josh, who's a big Giants fan. He went on to tell me that it was the first time that they had basically their entire starting offense out there with Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton, all 5 of them out there, and or all 4 of them out there, sorry, and they lasted for a total of 1 quarter. So, unfortunately for the Giants, they've never seemed to really be able to put that whole core together, and Evan Ingram, sorry, was the other one I was thinking of the 5 players. So, they've never once had a full game of their starting tight end, their 2 starting wide receivers, their starting running back, and their starting quarterback all playing in the same game. So, it's kind of unfortunate for the Giants to think what could be if all their guys could stay healthy and on the field.
Yeah, I mean, it just devastating, the injuries, and I think it's really, especially for the Giants, where you're kind of that bubble team. If you have all your guys out there, then you have a pretty good team that you're rolling out, but the depth is definitely lacking, and I think that they're just getting crushed with injuries is not looking good for them.
No. And Custom PPE is Canada's leading face mask provider. Best prices and quickest turnaround in Canada. Built from right here in the Niagara region. Order today at customppe.ca. And remember, use the code armchair at checkout. You get 20% off your entire order. So check them out today, customppe.ca, and use code armchair at checkout. 20% off your entire order. Miklos, I don't have enough time in this episode or in the day to talk about this game, so I refuse to talk about it. The Dallas Cowboys come out with a 40-39 win against the Atlanta Falcons. When the time comes when the wound has healed, I will be able to talk about this game, but being 3 days after, I still cannot talk about this game without getting way too overly emotional about it. So I refuse to talk about it. I will talk about it when the time comes and I'm comfortable with it. You can talk about this game if you want, but I refuse. So take it away.
I think the play that everyone's going to be talking about, and this is where the knock happens, as you mentioned in the pre-show, on coaching, is that onside kick. I mean, that's the one thing that cost the Falcons the game. Sure, Dallas came back, but I mean, Dallas, if you're Dallas, you're happy you came away with the win, but my God, with the amount of talent that this roster has on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, the fact that they needed a blunder on the Falcons' part to have a chance to kick a game-winning field goal to win that game, if you're the Cowboys, you're really concerned with how this season has been going. I mean, they're turning the ball over, and yeah, one lucky play, if Atlanta just jumps on that ball, that onside kick, which I think that's going to be talked about all season, that play, that game's over, and Dallas loses. And, I mean, no offense to your Falcons. They've been playing incredibly well, but I don't think anyone would have guessed that they would have been in the position that they were in that game, given, I mean, Dallas was favored by 5 points going into the game. I think it's an incredible job by the Falcons. I think they need to clean up their coaching with what happened there, and they come away with a win in that game. And then if you're Dallas, I think you're concerned moving forward. Despite the win, you're coming in next week against the Seahawks, and I mean, you're supposed to be a favorite to win this division. I do not see them coming away with many more wins if it takes situations like that for them to get a win in their NFC games.
Yeah, I mean, the Falcons were 5-point underdogs, and if you would have told me we would have lost 40-39, I would have been okay with it. But the way that it happened, just inexcusable. I can't really talk about it yet without getting too fired up about it. But I'm sorry, Dallas. Like, you guys, good on you for coming back, but this was a choke job of historic, proportions by the Atlanta Falcons for the second time. So for me, it's more that the Falcons blew it than the Cowboys won it, but the Cowboys did end up winning this game. And if you're the Cowboys, I mean, you're lucky that this division is absolutely looking atrocious right now. So, I mean, they could probably win 6 or 7 games and still win this division, but it looks like they're going to win more than that. Just I wouldn't say it was a good performance. Obviously, they had 4 turnovers in the first quarter, so that's obviously got to be cleaned up. But nothing else I'm going to say about the Atlanta Falcons side. Just they broke me down the other day, and I'm still not going to forgive them for that. So Dallas comes away with the 40-39 victory in that game. Moving on here, your Green Bay Packers. You've been very high on them this year, and Aaron Rodgers pulling out a 42-21 victory at home against a division opponent in the Detroit Lions. Pretty solid and easy game here for the Packers, winning by basically double what the Lions put up on them. Yeah,
I think the Packers are showing last year's 13-3 was no mistake. That was no accident. And how about the emergence of Marquez Valdes-Scantling? I mean, he is looking awesome out there, showing. And I'm going to hot take here. I think in a couple of years, we're going to look back on this draft that the Packers have that we, us included, and everybody else blasted for being such an awful draft. And I mean, hey, if Aaron Rodgers retires like 4 or 5 years from now and Love comes out and is an absolute stud sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, we're going to be looking back at this draft like that was some pretty smart thinking by Green Bay. I mean, their defense is looking good. The offense is looking incredible. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, they just everything's working for them. And I think they're coming for the crown in the NFC this year. They're looking really good. And I know they've not exactly played against the best teams in their division rivals so far. I mean, Minnesota is just a dumpster fire. And Detroit, I don't know what's going on in Detroit. I feel like Matt Patricia needs to get fired or change something. There's something not right in the Motor City. But Green Bay is looking scary out there. Yeah,
I'd love to see Mike McCarthy go up against the Packers in a Cowboys and Packers matchup, the former coach against his former quarterback. I'd love to see the story basically write itself for that one. Then for ratings, that would be awesome. But Packers off to a great start. And speaking of a team that's not off to a great start, like you mentioned, the Minnesota Vikings, and oh my goodness, you had them as a wild card team. I had them winning the NFC North. Just an abysmal 2 weeks, getting absolutely run over by the Packers and their offense last week. And then this week against the Colts team who had coming off a loss to the Jags. won 28-11, just inexcusable offense by this Minnesota Vikings team. We expected a lot more you have Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, just a very solid, offense and playmakers on this team, and they are not getting it done right now. 28-11 loss to the Colts here.
Yeah, I think they're missing Stephon Diggs a lot more than people would have imagined. Justin Jefferson obviously has not filled in those shoes like many people thought he would whenever they drafted him this year, and their offense is looking... the whole team's looking out of sorts. If Indianapolis's offense could get it together more, that game would have been way more out of hand than 28-11. There's so many times where they ended up with field goals when they could have ended up with touchdowns. I think Indianapolis is still looking really shaky, bumping up and down the field with their offense. The way Minnesota was playing, I think Indianapolis should have put up a lot more points than they did. And if you're Indianapolis, you're concerned based on how the Titans have played and how good Jacksonville's been looking in their division. So they're getting for a tough road in that division to try and pull out the win like I expected them to do. And if you're Minnesota, you gotta clean up a lot. I don't know what's going on over there. The offense looks terrible, and the defense is allowing. They held Indianapolis to field goals, but my God. They got a lot of work to do if they want to come back and try and compete in the NFC.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer's got a lot of work to do, and you called it. They have a brand new secondary this year for the Vikings, so obviously there's going to be some growing pains there, maybe more than we all thought. Mike Zimmer being the great defensive coach, but it just seems like that secondary is just it's definitely showing that it's completely changed from last year, which was so dominant.
Yeah, and I think even though they brought in Yannick Ngakoue, they obviously aren't getting home fast enough for those deficiencies to be covered up, because I was concerned based on the quarterbacks that they're playing, especially in their division alone. Having all brand new rookie corners, that's something that can be a real problem, especially in today's NFL where people are throwing so many times and it's become a throwing league. I think the pass rush obviously isn't covering up that deficiency, and it's costing them.
Speaking of another team that's supposed to have a great defense, which is not looking great right now, the Buffalo Bills. And again, they're 2-0 against the Dolphins and the Jets. But if you're a Bills fan, you have to be pretty concerned with the amount of points that your supposed top three defense in the entire NFL is giving up to the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. They gave up 17, I believe, to the Jets last week, and they gave up 28 to the Dolphins and only won this game by a field goal. If you're the Bills, again, this looks like a pretty bad 2-0 start to me.
I think I'm more concerned about this Miami game. Weird things happen in Miami, though. Doesn't matter who you are. We've seen all the troubles the Patriots have had, even in Tom Brady's greatest years, whenever they went down to Miami to play against the Dolphins. I do think it's positive that they are 2-0. That's 2 division wins. But now the test comes. You got to see who you are against quality opponents. And I'm going to call it the slander that I heard on the radio the other day, where the Bills said that Bills fans were talking on WGR. They were talking about what games they thought were challenging for the Bills coming forward, and they did not include my Oakland Raiders coming up 2 weeks from now. And based on our win against the Saints and their performance against the Dolphins, I think they better take that back, Bills Mafia. I still think that you guys are going to pull off the upset of taking the NFC or the AFC East title away from the Patriots finally. I do think that's still going to happen. The Bills still do have a talented offense and defense, and Stephon Diggs is looking really nice for them, especially with the way that Josh Allen has been connecting with him on those deep balls. So that is looking good. But I do think you're happy that you're 2-0, but you want to make sure that you continue improving and not let the downsides of these last 2 games come back and haunt you against good teams.
Yeah, and the one thing I will take away from the Bills, again, it's hard to win games in the NFL. They are 2-0, I'll give them that. Josh Allen has looked really nice. He's putting up a lot of yards, so, that's the guy that they needed to kind of, take that next step this year. The defense has kind of taken a little bit of a step back, but it looks like Josh Allen so far through 2 games, he's looking pretty good. He's got to clean up a little bit in the red zone, but despite that, him and Stephon Diggs have found a nice chemistry, and him and John Brown still there. So it looks like the Bills' offense this year might finally be something that we can say, is something to be afraid of, which we haven't been able to say about the Buffalo Bills' offense in a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, they're looking like a complete team. Their offense is looking really good and consistent, and the defense is getting the job done. So as long as they keep winning games, Bills Mafia is going to be happy.
Mm-hmm. And not really much to talk about in this game. The Niners beating up on the Jets at 31-13, but the main story here is just all the injuries for the San Francisco 49ers, Miklos. I mean, half of their defensive line go out. Jimmy Garoppolo is out. Just seems like they would have taken the loss to the Jets over all these injuries, like we mentioned in the first segment. Just they come away with the win here, but they've got to be devastated with how it came out.
Yeah, I think they definitely took the worst of this win against the Jets. Losing their D-line, I guess the only good news is that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't look like he's going to be out long-term like the other guys on their team, but their depth is going to be seriously tested this year. And the way the rest of the NFC West is looking, they are in serious trouble. And as for the Jets, they continue their road to the anti-perfect season and going 0-16. They look like they got nothing going on for them. I feel so bad for Sam Darnold out there, and they are definitely going to be picking top 3, if not number 1, this upcoming draft.
Yep, couldn't have said it any better myself. Another team that's looking real bad right now is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I mean, there was some people under the impression that they weren't going to be very good this year. Some people were still very high on the Eagles this year with all the moves that they have made. I was not one of those people that was very high on them. Their division is terrible, so even them finishing second in their division is not something to be proud of when you have the Redskins and the Giants who are rebuilding teams within your division. The Cowboys really the only threat in that division, in my opinion. They lose again, and they are just getting shredded so far this season by they lost to the Redskins in week 1, and now they lose 37-19 to a West Coast team coming out east in the LA Rams, winning 37-19. Not a good look and not a good 0-2 start here for the Eagles.
Yeah, I think Carson Wentz has seriously regressed. They were even asking Doug Peterson about the game, and he didn't have an answer about why Carson Wentz is looking so bad, but the Eagles they're out of sorts. They're looking like Minnesota this year. They just offense and defense, special teams just disorganized. I don't know what's going on there. Especially Doug Peterson and Mike Zimmer, both excellent coaches. So I don't know what's happening with both those teams. But the Rams, they are looking a lot better than I expected them to look this year. I think Sean McVay has really turned it around. I mean, Jared Goff's looking poised, throwing the ball out there. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are looking like weapons, and that rookie out of Florida, Van Jefferson, looking very nice for them as a third wide receiver. And the Rams are looking good. I think San Francisco is very much looking up at the rest of the AFC West, especially with the way Arizona has been playing and where you've been seeing how Russ has been dealing with the Seahawks. But the Rams are definitely looking like they're a team that cannot be overlooked in this NFC West.
I feel like they still are kind of flying under the radar at 2-0 with how good the Cardinals have looked, and with, again, the Seahawks just looking dominant, and the 49ers, as the defending champs there. Just it seems like the Rams are still flying under the radar, but like we had predicted in the preseason, this division is going to be the toughest division to win in football this year. All 4 teams look good, and the Niners, with a few of their injuries, they could end up finishing third in this division. It wouldn't be surprising to me. But, the Rams kind of flying under the radar. A good 2-0 solid start for them, for Sean McVay. I think, like you mentioned, a little bit unexpected so far for the Rams, but good start for them. Moving on here, another depleted team along with the 49ers. The Denver Broncos just continue to be depleted with what looked like a young team that looked promising this year with their offense. Just a lot of key injuries for the Broncos, as unfortunate as that is. They end up only losing this game by 5 to the Steelers, out playing in Pittsburgh with, like you mentioned, Jeff Driscoll at quarterback. So we already talked about this a little bit, so we'll just quickly touch on it. But the Steelers pulling away with a 5-point victory here. But if you're the Broncos, I mean, against a top 5 defense in the Steelers, you got to be happy with the fact that you were able to stay in this game with all the injuries and a lot of backups in this game, going up against a very tough Pittsburgh Steelers team and only losing by 5 points.
Yeah, I think they, much like the Steelers last year, key injuries are causing them to lose games that you wouldn't expect them to lose. But I think there's a lot to be happy about in Denver. based on how many backups are playing and how depleted their team is, they're still in these games and threatening to win. I mean, if things go their way on a couple of plays here and there, but I think they got to keep battling. And despite their losses, I still think they're looking like a really solid team.
Mm-hmm. And moving on here, the other team in the NFC West that we've both been super high on all offseason, the Arizona Cardinals, really proving it here against the Washington football team, 30-15. Basically, just a defiant win here for the Arizona Cardinals. Just what are you thinking of how Cliff Kingsbury has got this offense rolling here? They look really nice right now.
Yeah, wow. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray are a scary combination, and Kyler Murray has been looking unbelievable. I think he's him and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. My God, I can't believe I put Russell Wilson third there. But those are your top three candidates for the MVP, I think, right now. Looking incredible, all of them. And Arizona and Seattle, whenever they play, are good. That's going to be some incredible games, and that's when we're going to see how for real this Arizona team is.
Absolutely. That's they're just continuing to build on what we expect to be a very good trajectory for this Cardinals franchise. Moving in the last couple of games here in the 4 o'clock slot, the Ravens and the Chiefs coming away with victories. The Ravens first, 33-16, pretty easy victory there against the Bill O'Brien Texans, which is unfortunate for Deshaun Watson. Just continues to be held down by not having a lot of talent around him, and it's unfortunate. And on the other side, I think which was the most intriguing game of the week and kind of shocking was the Chiefs only coming away with a 3-point victory against the LA Chargers, needing a field goal at the end of regulation to tie it, and then a field goal in overtime to win it, and this game went under, which everybody expected this game to go over. Just what are your thoughts on those two games for the Ravens and the Chiefs as the two, expected number 1 and 2 seeds in the AFC?
I think the Ravens continue to do exactly what you expect them to do and getting it done. And I think Bill O'Brien has finally cracked getting the roster that Deshaun Watson can no longer cover up for. He has finally depleted the roster to the point that Deshaun Watson can't make up for the deficiencies that they have. And I feel so bad for Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt on that team. My God, they're going to have a long year. They're looking completely undermanned. And as for Kansas City and the Chargers, I mean, shout out to Justin Herbert. I am an Oregon Ducks fan, so that's my boy out there getting the start after the surprise scratching of Tyrod Taylor. And I mean, despite what they say about Tyrod Taylor, I don't know how you start him after that performance by Justin Herbert. A couple rookie mistakes are all that stood between him and beating the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. If you're Kansas City, I mean, you came away with the win there, and Harrison Butker, I mean, ice in his veins. 3 50-plus yard field goals back to back to back to end that game. But if you're the Chargers, you are fired up about how you played that game and how you were so close to beating the Super Bowl champions. And Justin Herbert, obviously looking like the future there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't even realize that he was starting. I didn't realize that they had replaced Tyrod Taylor with Justin Herbert, but definitely looked good in his first game. They had every opportunity to win that game against, like you said, the defending Super Bowl champions. And if it's not for Harrison Butker getting 3 50-yard-plus field goals, that game might have ended in a tie, or the Chargers might have had a chance to go down and win that game. Just a false start, a timeout, and then finally kicking the third one. So the Chiefs sneaking away a victory here from the Chargers within their division. And then lastly, the Sunday night game, the Patriots traveling to Seattle, and this game was a lot closer than I think people had expected. I mean, Cam Newton played really well in this game, and showing why he still has a lot left in the tank to give to the Patriots as long as he stays on the field. But again, Russell Wilson and this Seahawks team looks like they are primed and ready to take this NFC this year.
Another classic Seattle-New England matchup. I mean, this game was unbelievable. The New England defense showing that they're still a top defense, if not the top defense in the NFL, even against how much Russell Wilson has been cooking out there and how good he has been. They still kept themselves in a position to win that game. And I mean, other than an unbelievable stand by the Seahawks defense on that last play of the game, we're looking at another comeback by the Patriots. I mean, even with Cam Newton back there and all the doubts with his injury history and everything, that Cam Newton has been looking great for the Patriots, and the way they've been playing these games, I know they're 1-1 right now, but the Patriots are no pushovers.
No, and yeah, I mean, a solid win there for the Seahawks, but the Patriots have got to be pleased with how they went out there to Seattle and only lost by 5. Had a chance to win that game at the end if Cam Newton is able to get that quarterback option play into the end zone. Just a great stop there by the Seattle defense, and what was a very exciting Sunday Night Football game. And finishing out the week on Monday Night Football is Miklos' Las Vegas Raiders pulling out the huge victory in their first game at home in Las Vegas. What a better start than taking out one of the big contenders in the NFC, the New Orleans Saints, 34-24. Miklos, take it away.
I mean, this was an unbelievable statement game, and as someone who has been openly skeptical and downright critical of John Gruden and what I thought of him coming in as a head coach, I think him and Gunther put together an unbelievable coaching job in this game. They did exactly what you do against a team with a dangerous offense. They just ground the ball down the Saints' throats. I mean, we have the biggest O-line in football in terms of weight. We just have behemoths out there, and Josh Jacobs is a stud, and they just ground the ball down. I think our first 2 touchdown drives of the game took up 18 and a half minutes of clock, which is incredible. I think Darren Waller showed how dangerous he was, and the Saints had no answer for him the entire game. It was awesome game to watch. And that young defense, hey, whenever they came out with our offense scoring and the pressure started getting on the Saints, and especially with them sitting on the bench so long, our young defense was flying around, looking really good, getting pressure on Drew Brees, which was the thing I said we definitely needed to improve after that Carolina game. I think the Saints missed Michael Thomas a lot more than people were expecting. They didn't have a go-to guy to throw the ball to. Emmanuel Sanders was, I think he had his first catch with 5 minutes left in the game, or even less, in the entire game, which is unacceptable if Michael Thomas is down and Emmanuel Sanders is providing nothing to you. If you're the Saints, I think the biggest problem out of that game was the amount of penalties. It was unbelievable. They have like 250 yards of penalties, I think, in their first 2 games. That is crazy, and I think that's something that Sean Payton is going to be livid about and something they really need to clean up if they're going forward. But I don't think the Saints should be too concerned. It was unbelievably enough. The last time the Saints started the season 2-0 was in 2013, and apparently this has been an ongoing concern for the Saints, winning the second game for the season. But my Raiders, I think it was a huge statement game. First win in Allegiant Stadium in the Death Star, and I think it's looking really good for the rest of the season for the Raiders if we can continue putting games together like that. Yeah,
what a game for Darren Waller and his just great comeback story, a guy that you gotta tip your hat to and love, even if you're not an Oakland Raiders or Las Vegas Raiders fan. Just a great comeback story, a guy dealing with depression and dealing with addiction problems in the past, and being able to come back and looking like he's having a very solid career en route, looking like he's en route to a Pro Bowl this year for the Raiders. Just what a stat line: 16 targets, 12 catches for 103 yards. Just what do you think Darren Waller has done this last couple of years for the Raiders here?
I think he's become the go-to target for Derek Carr, and in this game, he was the game changer. I mean, Josh Jacobs obviously was amazing and has been amazing as an absolute stud running back for us. But despite, as you can see, 12 catches, 103 yards, you might think that he's not making these big catches, but the number of catches that were on third down by Darren Waller, he was just automatically the go-to guy and just automatic first downs to help us keep grinding the ball down the field and eventually score touchdowns. He is a mismatched nightmare out there, and has definitely become Derek Carr's go-to guy, especially with a bunch of rookie wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. And a great start to the opening of Allegiant Stadium for the Raiders. Just couldn't come up with a better victory there, beating a great Saints team. And the Raiders are 2-0. Great start by John Gruden and your Las Vegas Raiders. Looking good to start the season. Nothing much else you could say about that. But that's it for the Week 2 recap, guys. A lot of games to recap there, and a lot of interesting things that happened, a lot of key injuries. So we'll see what Week 3 brings us. And speaking of Week 3, we're going to go over our Week 3 spreads and betting picks for that week right after this last commercial break. So we'll be right back here on Straight to the Extra Point and right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. J&L Flooring is a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride in providing elite customer service and support. They are a specialty flooring and decor boutique shop with a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety and truly unique selection of products. All their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel great about your flooring choices. Their goal as a local business is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they connect with their customers to simplify the process to make their life easier and to make their homes beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road, Niagara Falls, or find out more at jnlflooring.com. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 905-358-3299 J&L Flooring. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill is located on the top of Clifton Hill and just a 5-minute walk from the majestic Niagara Falls. It is conveniently nestled in the heart of the tourist district. A family-owned and operated business, the Spicy Olive opened its doors in May of 2003 and has since been established as an authentic and unique Italian restaurant and bar. Its rustic ambiance and time-worn finishing provide a warm and inviting dining experience. Offering an array of delicious dishes, they specialize in authentic Italian cuisine, homemade sauces, fresh ingredients, and consistently providing a strong foundation on which they build their menu. As night falls, the Spicy Olive shifts to a lively lounge where drinks and live music come together to make a perfect evening. For more than 15 years, they have provided not only for their dedicated locals, but their customers from all over the world with authentic Italian food and great live entertainment. Open daily 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. for dinner and till 2 a.m. for drinks. Check out their new menu and book reservations on their website at Spicy Olive Bar and Grill, it's with an E at the end, .com, or call 905-371-2323 for reservations as well. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the final segment of our Straight to the Extra Point. Cappy Miklos back with you here. Went over the Week 2 games in the last segment, and in this segment, the last segment of today's show, it is going to be the Week 3 spreads and betting picks again. If you missed it in the last segment, Miklos and myself both went 11-5 with the spreads and 7-9 with the over-unders. So not the greatest with the over-unders, but to me the spreads are worth more. So as long as we're getting those right, hopefully you guys are listening and taking our picks seriously, and hopefully you guys are winning some money with those picks. But with that being said, this last segment today is brought to you by J&L Flooring, a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. Simplified process and making homes beautiful is their specialty. 905-358-3299 and jnlflooring.com to start today. So with that being said, Miklos, let's get into it with the final segment today and our betting picks. Thursday Night Football. You know what? This deserves a sound clip for this one. Yes, crickets for this Thursday night game. Miami Dolphins and Jacksonville Jaguars, the Battle of Florida. Two teams that really, the Jags have, they're 1-1 right now, so I can't really chirp them too much, but two teams that you're not expecting a lot of this year. I don't know how exciting this game is going to be. Jacksonville is actually favored by 3 points in this game at home. The over-under is 47.5. Miklos, what do you got in this battle of the Titans here?
Yeah, that's two Thursday night games that you've slammed the crickets on. I think I'm excited for Minshew Mania on Thursday. It's the two anti-tanks, Fitzmagic against Minshew Mania. But yeah, it's going to be, I think, a lot of sloppy play based on how the first couple weeks have been going. But I do think Jacksonville's going to handily win this game against Miami. So I'm going to take Jacksonville here for the spread. I do think they're going to win by at least a touchdown. They've been looking really good on offense. But that being said, I do think Fitzmagic is capable of scoring garbage touchdown points and even putting up quite a few points for this Miami team. So I'm going to take the Jacksonville and the over.
Okay, so we're on completely ends of the spectrum here for this game. I don't believe in the Jags. I'm sorry. Minshew has looked pretty good, but I'm going with the Dolphins to cover here. I think that they might actually come away with the win here against Jacksonville. I'm going with the Dolphins at +3, and I'm on the under in this game. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a very, very sloppy game. I don't really expect it to be that high scoring, so we're on completely different ends of the spectrum for the first game, and I like it. So I'm at Dolphins +3, and on the under, you're at Jags -3, and on the over. So this game on Thursday Night Football could decide who wins the picks this week after tying last week. So we'll have to see how that goes. But moving into the first Sunday game, oh my God. Do I really have to talk about these guys again? The Atlanta Falcons favored by 3.5. Actually, the spread has moved since I looked at it yesterday getting ready for the show. It was at 3. Now it's 3.5. I don't know. They're giving the Falcons an extra 0.5 here on the field goal. So Falcons favored by 3.5 at home against the Bears. The Falcons are 0-2. The Bears are 2-0, and the Falcons are favored. So that goes to show you that. And the over-under is 47.5. Miklos, what do you got?
I think that extra 0.5 gets me. I mean, I gotta see something from Atlanta based on their first couple of games. I mean, they show capable of scoring points, but I mean, Chicago has just been scrappy. I'm taking Chicago to cover the spread, and I do think it's going to be. I'm taking the under in this game as well, because I can't see, based on the first 2 weeks, Atlanta winning by more than a field goal, and I do think it's going to be a bit more tightly contested on the defensive side.
Atlanta can score points, but they can't stop anybody. So for me, that right there goes for smashing the over. No matter what the Bears do with their defense, I know your boy Khalil Mack looked good last week as well, but against the Giants. But for me, I'm always taking an over in an Atlanta game because their offense can put up points, and they cannot stop a nosebleed, and they cannot even stop being up by 15 points with 3 minutes left, still find a way to give up 16. So for that fact, I'm going with the over. And I'm going to pick the Falcons. As much as I don't want to, if we start off the season 0-3, this is going to be real ugly real quick. I mean, if it isn't already bowling shoe ugly for the first 2 weeks. The offense has looked really good. That's the one thing to take away. They've scored, I think, the third most points in the league, but they've given up the most points in the league. So that goes to show you what's going on with the problem right there. Dan Quinn, the supposed, in air quotations, great defensive coach, giving up the most points in the NFL. So don't really know what to say about that, but I'm going with the Falcons. I have a good feeling about this week, and it can't get much worse than what we felt rock bottom last week. So I'm going with the Falcons at -3.5 and the over, and you're on the Bears and the under. So first 2 games are on completely at different ends of the spectrum. I love it. So good difference of opinion here. But moving on here. This game's going to be interesting. The Bills thought that they, coming in high against the Jets and the Dolphins was fun. Now they're welcoming a very solid 2-0 LA Rams team in what looks to be a very solid game at 1 o'clock here. You got the Bills are actually favored by 3 points, and the over-under is 48.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the first prove-it game for the Bills. I mean, you beat the Jets and the Dolphins. You were expected to. That's good and all, being 2-0. Now it's time to show that you can roll with the big boys. And I think this is actually a concerning game for the Bills. The Rams have been looking really good and have played, at least in Dallas, one talented, if not, I mean, they feel really weird saying quality opponent based on how they've looked in their first 2 games. And then the Philadelphia has just been a mess. But I think this is going to be a really good game. I think the Bills might have their first hiccup here. I think the Rams are going to come away with the win. I'm taking the Rams, but that being said, the Bills have shown that they can score points and they can get after it. So I am going to take the over in this game, the first prove-it game for the Bills.
Will we be different? Will we have a difference of opinion for this game? We will not. I'm on the Rams with you at +3 as well. I would have even picked the Rams if they were favored by 3 points in this game. I'm really high on the Rams in this game. I think the Bills, coming off a couple of pancake games against the Jets and the Dolphins, the Rams coming in hot, beating the Eagles and the Cowboys. Just they're riding high here, and they're out east again here 2 weeks in a row. I like the Rams here. I really, like you said, the momentum that they've got right now, I think that they're just, they're going to surprise the Bills a little bit, but I do think both teams are going to be putting up some points, so I'm with you at Rams +3 and the over, which I think is going to be a very exciting game at 1 o'clock this week, one of the best, I think. But Moving on here to a game that I don't expect to be very good is the Washington football team against the Cleveland Browns. Browns favored by 7 points. I'm going to start off here, Miklos, because I really don't want to talk about this game. It looks atrocious in my opinion, so I'm going to pick the Redskins at +7, and I'm going to go with the under.
Coach, we're in absolute agreement. I think Cleveland has looked shaky, and Washington has got a nasty defensive line. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball nearly as effectively as they did against Cincinnati last week, and I do think Cleveland will be able to pull out the victory, but by 7 I think is a bit of a stretch. So I'm taking Washington and the under as well.
Yeah, as we keep saying that, Redskins front four is just unbelievably terrifying. Ron Rivera, he's a great coach. I really like what Washington's doing. They're not there yet, but they're going to be there eventually. But I think giving the Browns 7 points against anybody is way too high of a spread. So I'm slamming the Redskins at +7 all day long, and I'm on the under as well. Just I don't think you can give the Browns 7 points right now, and especially with the way Washington has looked respectable so far. I got to give them some credit at +7 there. But that'll be it for that game. That looks like it's going to be a bowling shoe ugly type of game there with the the Washington football team and the Cleveland Browns. But moving on here, we got two teams that have, one is really underperformed and one hasn't looked great despite being 2-0. The Tennessee Titans traveling to Minnesota. The spread is the Titans at -3 on the road, and the over-under is 47 for supposedly two very solid defensive teams.
Yeah, I think you want to talk about bowling shoe ugly. I think this game is going to be a grind. And that's not to say that because Tennessee's bad, but that's just the style of football that Tennessee plays. And I think they're going to grind Minnesota just into the ground. This is not the game for Minnesota to get right. I'm definitely taking Tennessee at -3, but I'm going to take the under here. I think they're just going to let Derrick Henry rumble all over them and take this win in a low-scoring fight.
Okay, so the Titans at -3 and under on the 47. I'm going with the Vikings to get back on track, Miklos, for the sake of my picks for this season and the Vikings somehow staying in the NFC North title picture. I think after these horrendous 2 weeks that they've had, like the Atlanta Falcons, they do get it together here. And I think the Vikings pull out the win here against a Titans team that has not looked good with these 2 victories so far. So I think it could be a little bit of a hiccup for the Titans. And I'm sticking with my Vikings here at +3. And I'm with you on the... Actually, I'm not with you. I think this game is going to be over. The Vikings secondary has not looked good at all. The Titans have proved that they could put up points. And the Vikings have an offense that has the capabilities of putting up a lot of points, even though they put up a whopping 11 against the Colts last week. So I'm on the Vikings at +3 in the over. You're on the Titans and the under. So another difference of opinion with that. So going to be interesting. And moving into another game here, which I'll tread lightly here, which is... Miklos's beloved Las Vegas Raiders going up against his hated New England Patriots. Patriots favored by 6 points at home, and the over-under is 47.5. Miklos, what are you thinking of your Raiders coming off a big W against the Saints?
I mean, based on this Monday Night Football game, I would not be the Raiders fan that I am, or have the football sense, I think, to say that the Raiders are going to lose by 6 points to the Patriots. I know the Patriots have looked really good and Cam Newton has looked really good, but I mean, so have we. And if there's one way to beat a good defense, as we saw way back whenever Denver ended up winning the Super Bowl, but the Raiders beat them, the way you beat a good defense is you run the ball right down their throat and don't let them do the good things that they can do, which is something that the Raiders are absolutely built to do with Josh Jacobs and that offensive line. So I'm taking the Raiders here, and I'm going to take the over because we saw the Patriots hang with the Seahawks, and we saw the Raiders put up points against the Saints. So I think this is still going to be relatively high scoring. The Raiders do have a young defense that is prone to making errors and giving up points. But I'm definitely taking my Raiders here and the over.
Okay, unfortunately, Miklos, I'm going against your Raiders. I think the Patriots, they had a great showing against the Seahawks, and if they would have got in on that last-second play of Cam Newton quarterback option play, they would have won that game against the Seahawks and been 2-0. So I think the Patriots are going to be coming this week for redemption after that loss to the Seahawks last week, looking good in the loss, game that they probably could have easily won. The Patriots at home, we all know playing at Foxborough isn't the easiest place to play. The Raiders going out east, I just don't like the matchup, Miklos. I really don't. I know the Raiders have looked good And, I'm really high on the Raiders. Just, I don't like this matchup against the Patriots. I'm sorry. So I'm going with the Patriots at -6. I think the Raiders do keep it close, definitely within 10 points, because they have looked real nice. But I'm with you on the over. I think both these teams are going to be putting up points. I know New England has a solid defense with Stephon Gilmore, but nobody has been able to stop the Raiders' offense so far. So I think they're very capable of putting up some points, and New England Patriots have shown that they're capable of putting up points as well. So I'm with you on the 47.5 being over, but unfortunately I'm with the Patriots at -6, and you're with the Raiders at +6. So we'll have to see what comes back next week after that 1 o'clock game, an early game for the Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm going to be remembering this slander next week when we do the show.
Wasn't much slander, but I guess you could say that. Next shout out here, Niagara Employment Help Center, helping job seekers find work for their free services and counseling professionals. 6100 Throwstone Road, Niagara Falls, across from the Camisos Plaza. Book your appointment today at ehc.on.ca or 905-358-0021. We've got the San Francisco 49ers in a depleted fashion, traveling to New York, out east, to play the New York Football Giants. Niners favored by 4. What do you got?
Yeah, I think both teams are super depleted, and I think the Giants' edge is that they still have their starting quarterback out there, and San Fran doesn't look like they're going to have Jimmy Garoppolo under center for this game. I'm taking the Giants in the under. I mean, I don't know what either team is going to be rolling out for their offenses, and the 49ers have a seriously depleted defense. I mean, they're built from their defensive line. So I'm going to take the Giants and the under in this game.
I'm with you 100% on the under because we don't know what either of these teams are going to look like, losing a lot of key starters on their offenses. But I think the Niners do, with the talent that they still have, do get it together and are able to beat the Giants by 4 because they really need to win these games to stay intact with the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. So I think if you're the Niners, even though this is a game where you have an excuse to be, to lose this game because of the injuries, I think you need to come away with the victory here. So I'm going with the Niners by 4, and the under, along with Miklos on that, but he is on the Giants at +4, so shout out to his brother and our good friend Harry McMaster, big Giants fan. But with that being said, moving on to the Bengals traveling to Philly to play the Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 6 points in this game. I don't know how the Eagles could be favored by 6 points against anybody right now with the way that they've looked the first 2 weeks. And the Bengals, although they're 0-2, they have looked a respectable 0-2. The Eagles at the other end of the spectrum have looked a terrible 0-2. So, Miklos, I'm going to start this off here. I'm going with the Bengals at +6. I don't know how the Eagles are favored by so many in this game. I think that's disrespect to how well the Bengals have been playing the first 2 games of this season, and I'm going with the over in this as well. So I'm with Bengals at +6 and the over.
I think 6 points is a crazy margin to give them to beat the Bengals based on how the Bengals have looked and how the Eagles have looked. I think if the Eagles lose this game, there's going to be serious questions around Philadelphia about what the heck is going on there. I think the calls for Jalen Hurts, if they weren't already loud, will be deafening. So I'm definitely taking Cincinnati here and the over.
Okay, so we're both on agreement with that. Just the Eagles might win this game, but there's no way that they should be favored by 6 points the way that they've looked the first 2 weeks. I think that's inexcusable. And if they come away with the win, they need it because that's going to be bad. In that city, when teams are losing in that city, it's magnified. So we're both with the Bengals at +6 and the over here, but we both in agreement that the Eagles should be able to sneak away with the win here. And if they don't, the city of Philadelphia is not going to be brotherly love after that. But moving on to the last 1 o'clock game here, the Houston Texans traveling to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. We know our feelings if you listen to the show about the Texans and what Bill O'Brien has brought and what he has given away on that team. Steelers favored by 4, Miklos. I'm going to start it off here because I'm big on the Steelers this year. Steelers -4 and on the over.
Yeah, Pittsburgh and over. Enough said.
You don't even need any analysis from us for that. We've given you enough analysis of what we think of the Houston Texans over the span of these episodes. So Steelers -4 and the over, both on that. Moving on to another game here, and oh boy. Starting off with the 4 o'clock games, Jets and Colts. Wow. Colts favored by 10 points in this game. We both have been talking about the Jets possibly, on the Trevor Lawrence train here, getting the first overall pick. Looks like the way that their season's going. Do you think the Colts are going to win by at least 10 points here?
To follow up last pick, Indianapolis and over.
Perfect. Indianapolis over. I'm on the same thing. No analysis needed for either of those two games. Just enough said with the Steelers, and the Colts should be taking care of the Texans and the Jets. Next game here. This one might be a little bit more interesting. The Carolina Panthers traveling out west to play the LA Chargers in their very close loss to the Chiefs last week. Chargers favored by 7 points. Over-under is 44.
Yeah, I think this is a very intriguing game depending on what happens. And they keep saying they want to roll out Tyrod Taylor. I think honestly the Chargers are a worse team if they roll out Tyrod Taylor based on how Justin Herbert looked. I think you got to keep Justin Herbert out there. He's looked incredible in his first matchup against the Super Bowl champions, the Chiefs. The Panthers, I think, are still looking good, even though they have their issues. So I think the Chargers are going to pull out the win here, but I think Carolina is going to keep it close. So I'm going to take Carolina at +7, and I'm going to take the under in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for the Chargers to cover against anybody. If you've watched the Chargers over the years, they play down to teams that aren't, at their level or supposedly at their level. They really can't cover against anybody. So, I mean, for you to pick the Panthers, I really understand the pick because I usually don't pick the Chargers to cover anything. But I do think after their loss against the Chiefs last week, a very tough loss, I think a very close loss, I think they do pull it together here against the Panthers and win by maybe 10 or 11 points. So I'm going with the Chargers at -7. And did you say you were on the under or the over?
I said under.
Under? Okay, I'm in agreement with you on the under. Just don't know what to expect from these two offenses, so it's going to be tough for me to say that they're going to go over, although it is a very low 44 points, but we'll have to wait and see. So Miklos is +7 on the Panthers, I'm -7 on the Chargers. Next game, wow. Detroit Lions, underdogs by 6 points, traveling to Arizona. Obviously, you know how high we've been on Arizona this year. Over-under is 54.5 points. Do you think the Cardinals are winning by at least 6?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm taking Arizona here. I think they definitely are going to take this game, especially with, I don't know what's going on with Detroit. They're kind of like the Browns, I guess, but less talented maybe on paper. But I do think Arizona's going to win this game, and I'm going to take the under. I think Arizona's defense has shown that they can hold teams down if they need to, and then just manage the clock, running the ball, especially with the way Kyler Murray's been playing. So I'm going to take the Cardinals in the under.
I think Arizona might put up 40 points on their own, but it'll be tough for the Lions to get to that 54 points and a half needed for the over-under, but I'm still confident in it, though. I think the Cardinals will win this game by -6, so I'm in agreement with you, but I am on the over instead of the under for this game. But again, we're both really high on the Cardinals and expect them to come away with the victory here against the Lions team, which we just don't know what their deal is. Moving on, another an intriguing game that would have been a lot better if the Broncos didn't have a lot of injuries. I mean, the Denver Broncos welcoming the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady. The Buccaneers favored by 6.5 on the road, and the over-under is 44 points. Denver, as you know, as a Raiders fan, being in their division, always a tough place to try to play as an away team.
Yeah, absolutely. Mile High is always a tough place to win, but I think Tampa Bay has just been cleaning things up and getting better week to week, and I think Denver's just going to be undermanned with the amount of injuries that they have. Tampa Bay's defense is looking really good. I think Jeff Driscoll is going to be in over his head in this game. I'm taking Tampa Bay in the over.
Okay. I'm with agreement on you on that. Unfortunately, I do like the way that the Broncos have looked despite all their injuries, but I just don't know what to expect with them this week. Welcoming a Buccaneers team, like you mentioned, just continues to get better and better each week. Moving on here to the last of the 425 games is the Dallas Cowboys going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. The Cowboys, they're probably riding high right now after their big, in quotations, comeback win against the Atlanta Falcons, more so the Falcons just completely being choke artists like they usually do. The Seahawks favored by 5 points in this game. Miklos, I know you're probably fired up to talk about how many points the Seattle Seahawks are going to win by in this game.
You know what? Dallas is always dangerous to score points, as we saw this last week. So I do think, despite how good the Seahawks defense is, I think this is going to be a relatively high-scoring game. I do think Seattle is going to take care of business, though, especially at home against the Cowboys. So I'm taking Seattle, and despite the insane over-under here at 55.5, I'm still going to take the over. I do think this is going to be a relatively high-scoring game.
Yeah, Dallas's defense has proved to not be anything special so far, but both these offenses can put up points, so I'm in agreement with you. 55.5 points is a lot, but I think these two teams can do it. So I'm with you. Seahawks -5 and the over on the 55.5. Last shout out here to Spicy Olive Bar and Grill, family owned and operated since 2003, serving authentic and unique Italian style food just off historic Clifton Hill in Niagara Falls. This month's promo code is ArmchairPenne for 10% off your entire order for takeout or eat in. 905-371-2323 or spicyolivebarandgrill.com to book your reservation. So we've got here the Sunday night game. Green Bay Packers, who've looked really nice, traveling to New Orleans to play the Saints. Saints favored by 3 points coming off their loss against your Raiders last week. This looks like it's going to be a very good Sunday night game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be an awesome Sunday night matchup, and I think the Saints could be in trouble here. I mean, after dropping that game to the Raiders, I do think these penalties that they have are going to be a real problem for them. Green Bay has looked scary good, and if Michael Thomas is still not available in this game, I think the Saints are going to be in real trouble. I'm taking Green Bay here and the over.
I like the Packers at +3 too. I think even if the Packers were favored by -3 in this game, I probably would have still taken them. I really like the way the Packers have played, and obviously you have raved about how great that they have looked coming off their season last year and saying that it wasn't a fluke. The Saints, they should bounce back after the loss against the Raiders, but for me, I'm taking the Packers at +3 with you. And did you say the over on the 54?
Over, yes.
Okay, over on the 54. This looks like it's going to be a very entertaining Sunday night game. Really looking forward to watching this game. It should be a real barn burner between two great quarterbacks in Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. And like you mentioned, Michael Thomas still being out could be a key for New Orleans. But we'll have to wait and see. And the Monday night game, wow, what a start to Monday Night Football here with what we had last week with the Raiders coming off a big victory against the Saints. And then they get a game here which looks like it could be a preview of the AFC Championship game if all things go right. Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Baltimore to play the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens favored by 3.5. Over-under is 53. This could be a game of the year candidate, Miklos. What are you thinking of this game? I'm fired up for this.
I am very fired up for this game, and I think just based on how they've looked through the first 2 weeks, I think Baltimore's looked way more solid. I think Mark Ingram and what they have in J.K. Dobbs has been really solid for them as a running back combination. Lamar Jackson is just taking care of business. I think the Chiefs showed that they might have some flaws in their game against the Chargers. That was a game that the Chargers very easily could have won, despite what the Chiefs have on the table. And so I'm taking Baltimore here. I think Baltimore does not to say that I don't think this is going to be an AFC championship matchup and that the Chiefs are going to dominate the rest of the year. But I think in this first matchup, I think the Ravens definitely have the edge early in the season, but I am also going to take the over. I think even despite what happened last week, I think the Chargers holding Patrick Mahomes' offense to 17 points in regulation was pretty incredible. But I am going to take the over in this game, but Baltimore at -3.5.
Okay, Raven. I don't know. Like, I know the Ravens have looked really good, and the Chiefs, they didn't look that great against the Chargers last week, but for the defending Super Bowl champions to be underdogs by 3.5, I just don't think that that's going to fly. I really think that this spread could, and the day of recording this on Wednesday, I think this spread could, go down by the end of game time or before game time on Monday. I really think that the Chiefs should be a little bit more respectable in this spread. I don't think that you can say that Baltimore is going to win by over a field goal by 4 points. I don't know. I mean, if Baltimore wins, I think it might be by a field goal. But for that being said, I'm taking the Chiefs at +3.5 because the Super Bowl champions being underdogs by 3.5, I just don't really know how you can go about that, although the Ravens have looked fantastic. But I think if the Ravens win this game, it'd be by a field goal, and the Chiefs would still cover in this point. So again, on the day of recording this, it's 3.5, but I really could see this spread going down to maybe 3 or 2.5 in the Chiefs' favor to not even have them win or have the field goal make a difference. So for me, I'm on the Chiefs at +3.5, Miklos. I just don't know if the Ravens can win by more than a field goal against them.
Yeah, I'm just giving them the edge based on the first 2 weeks and how solid the Ravens have looked and how the Chiefs have looked mortal like they did against the Chargers.
Okay, so that's it for our Week 3 picks, Miklos. Another solid week here, and what games are you looking forward most to here as we wrap up the show today? Just obviously the Chiefs-Ravens game is going to look really nice, but what other games are you really fired up to turn on this week?
Well, obviously my Raiders against the Patriots. I am super fired up for that game, and then the Dallas-Seattle at 4 o'clock, and then Green Bay-New Orleans is the Sunday night. I think all those are probably the 3 games I'm be tuning into on Sunday.
I think Rams-Bills has the possibility to be a very nice game at 1 o'clock as well. I think that, again, two 2-0 teams there, but I think the Rams are going to pull that one out. But it's a real test for the Bills to see if they can really be contenders here. And after the 2 weeks of cupcake games against the Jets and the Dolphins, so we'll have to see how they rebound there. But that being said, Miklos, that's going to wrap it up. And for you listeners out there, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of our Straight to the Extra Point right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here in the good old Niagara region. As always, I'm one of your hosts of the Straight to the Extra Point, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13 with a Canadian Z. As well, you can follow my co-host Miklos at Miklos_McMaster. Miklos, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Great analysis as always, and looking for more out of your Raiders this week.
Yes, sir. Can't wait.
Big thank you to all of our great sponsors who will put us on to support the network, keep the show on the air, make sure you're checking them out and telling them that the Armchair GM sent you. Support your local businesses at this time. And finally, to you viewers out there for tuning in and listening along for this episode. And once again, this has been Straight to the Extra Point on the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans, for sports fans. Enjoy week 3. It's all about the Shield, baby. We'll see you guys for week 4.